All right, moment of truth. So I have Ecamm there. Excellent connection. Nope, I'm still loading. And and no, it's not. It's dark screen. Oh, okay. Oh, we're live. We're live. We're live. And I should probably close this window, right? Or I should keep it open.
Yeah, it's up to you. You know.
Okay. So let me keep it here. Looks like it's with delay. Anyway, people, welcome to first ever Coding Addict live stream. Let me just start by saying few things. So first of all, big thank you to Paul for actually agreeing. Otherwise, I probably would have waited another 3 years to agree with this. To actually, otherwise, I would basically be procrastinating. Thank you to everyone who asked on Twitter. I will try to answer the questions as we go along. If we don't get to it, then we'll answer some other time, and I'll make sure to come back and to kind of give you a note or something like that. We answered it, so that way you know whether it actually makes sense for you to watch or no. And looks like we're getting people over here. It's 9:30 a.m. here. Nice to meet you. Yep, nice to see you as well. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, yep. Nice to see everyone. Yep. It took a long time for me to set this up, but yeah, hopefully you look like two twins.
Oh my gosh, it's funny. Yeah, we're secretly related. That's
Well,
why.
we do share a common like as far as growing up. You were born in Soviet Union, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Old school.
so we have a lot of things in common and everything. I'm from Japan, wondering why you're not using Sass, but so that's the problem right now is to kind of like scroll through. So let me go back to. Can I see here? Okay. So hi from Japan, wondering why you're not using Sass now on your HTML and CSS turn while implementing Sass. I know it's a personal preference. Technically speaking, anything you can advise about Sass. Well, so my thing is that I always, especially when it comes to courses, I always try to stay away from like jamming 20,000 things in there because I feel like as the course grows and grows and grows, it loses any kind of value. It just becomes like basically things that you can find in the Google as far as about that specific topic. So let's say if it's a React, then I don't want. I even like I was very hesitant to include Redux and all that kind of stuff because I think that if the course focuses on one thing, then it's much more productive for everyone who is watching it. And as far as the SaaS, I feel like it is a lot of times about preference. And to tell you honestly, I've been very successfully kind of using setting up everything without it. So for me, I didn't see the point of adding it and then going through with it. It's definitely something that is useful and I've seen some people who are really really good at it and everything and but for me it was really came down to because in React I use styled components anyway at the end of the day, so I don't need it, and therefore just for HTML and CSS I find the CSS variables and everything just pretty much getting the job done. What about you at your work? Is there any like CSS situation that you need to?
So currently on my job, we using SAS. On my
Mm-hmm.
previous job, we actually use style components. And a funny story, I took your. This is. I just have to say this. People like I took your React course and I took your style component course, and then a week later, I
Mm.
mean, like I had an interview and all that stuff was fresh in my mind. At my job, they literally asked, they're like, "Do you know style components?" And I was like, "Yes, I do." It's like I have that class that I'm going to go home and take a look. But I think if you're don't know CSS. Like there's no like I guess some people jump into SAS right away, and I
Mm.
think people should learn the basics. Learn CSS because SAS is built on top of CSS. So there's
Oh,
not that many
one
extra
second, my cat is trying to get in. Sorry.
no worries, no worries. So it's not that there's that many features. So once you know CSS, learning SAS is actually pretty easy, and you could accomplish it like pretty quickly. So that's what I would say: learn CSS first, and then if you work at a place where they require SAS, or if you personally want to use SAS, it's not that much harder to learn if you know CSS.
Mm. Yeah, I totally agree. It's definitely 100%. And by the way, I forgot to mention in the beginning, uh, this is Paul from Coding After 30. My true apologies. If you want to see some great content, then go and watch his channel. And that's the reason why I brought him in, because he's, like I said, he's very knowledgeable in all of these topics. So this is going to provide way more value for you instead of just looking at one guy trying to answering all the questions. And I'm totally, by the way, lost with
It
all the comments right now.
it's funny
So
because somebody told me like I should name my channel Coding After 40 because I'm 41 now, you know, and I'm like, no, no, no. I started trying to learn to code in my mid 30s when I was like around 36. I know it took me a while, but we're gonna keep the name the same, Coding After 30.
yeah. So let me. I'm sorry. I'm gonna be like grandma who's getting the iPhone or something along those lines, because this is like the first one, so I'm trying to manage everything. Okay, let's go with, we have why no one uses brackets anymore. I don't know. Visual Studio Code has really become like an industry standard. I don't see it changing, because what I really like about the fact, like sometimes it's annoying the updates that they do, because like sometimes it feels too much, because especially when let's say your workflow is working right, they make an update and something doesn't work, and then I'm always cursing at Microsoft. I'm like, why you have to do these updates every day and blah blah blah. But at the same time, they're really like, they make it easy where you don't have to run around like a headless chicken, where it was for, let's say, I know that a lot of people probably will disagree with me, but with like Sublime and brackets, it wasn't that, like, it was pain, like Visual Studio Code made it way less painful. So that's kind of my 2 cents. What do you
S-
think?
Same, same. They made it so easy. I used to use Sublime Text, and then when VS Code came out, I was just like, why bother using all this other stuff? Just use VS Code. But it's true with the updates. You know, I remember I got the M1 Mac, and it didn't work well there, you know, until they released the newer version. But yeah, it's good. I like it. It's pretty much what we use at work too. So
Yeah, I don't really see anybody at the at like at least at this stage to kind of changing that. You know what? I think I'm gonna use the whatever you suggested me, the live stream site for the comments, and because it's very hard for me to follow here,
yeah,
like
yeah. If
on
you
the
could
live one.
see them on in the program, you could actually click on them and they'll pop up on the
Okay.
screen. I think inside the
Because
you
at the
can't.
moment, like I've counted
Yeah,
kind of sort of, and I think that we have missed already. Like I can
yeah, yeah,
set
yeah.
them
It's
up
fine.
as favorite, but I have a hard time.
Yeah,
Anyway,
you
so
can
we
put it.
have here, what do you have to say about Next versus Gatsby debate? And this is okay, so we are already getting into controversial stuff. Like, as far as, and this is kind of what I see it. So don't, so we have, hi guys. Hello. We have like, what I see right now is actually Next.js taking over. Like, and again, I know I'm gonna get a lot of slack and everything, but that's as far as I can see, as far as where the kind of industry is moving, because I think they really did a good job of, they initially they had a different setup a little bit than Gatsby. So Gatsby was all about static and all that, and what they did is they actually included the static stuff as well. So now you have both. You have not only the dynamic setup that you could do, but now you can also do the static. So now what you see is Gatsby doing backwards and going backwards. And what I have to say, like for me, it was easy to learn Gatsby, but let's say compared to Next.js, what I'm noticing is that um, the curve, the learning curve, is way less, because next Gatsby is using the GraphQL, so you need to understand that the data layer. Now, I'm not saying that it's impossible to understand, and definitely when it came out, they had a bunch of these, like, I would say, extraordinary things, right? Where you didn't have to worry about image optimizations. You didn't, like, there was so much stuff taken care of for you, right? But when it comes to Next.js, they kind of very smartly took all those things, like, made it also available. But as far as, in my experience, their API is actually, in like, at least that's what I think. It's easier, right? Again, I'm not saying Gatsby is going anywhere, and like it's a big debate, but I definitely think that Next.js, at least what I from where I stand, is definitely taking over. So, do you use Next.js at your work or
Um,
straight up?
we use straight up React, but from Gatsby, when it first came out, I was like excited about it and I tried it. But then when Next.js came out, it's like it's so much more flexible and you could pretty much do everything that
Mm,
Gatsby can't
mm,
do.
mm,
I know Gatsby uses GraphQL, but you could use Next.js with GraphQL if you wanted to. So
mm, mm,
now my stack is React and Next.js. That's it.
mm, mm,
Like I
mm,
don't think I'll touch Gatsby unless you're doing particular type of stuff that Gatsby
mm,
would be useful for. But for a lot of people that I talk to, it's more for like personal pages, for their own
mm,
like
mm.
portfolios and stuff. But client wise, I don't know how much stuff is out there. You know, I know there's a lot
Yeah.
of React jobs. I know that.
Well, there is one thing though. Like I think that 1 year ago or some time ago, when we both listened to Syntax FM, as a side note, we're both big fans, and it really struck me when Wes Boss said that basically at this point in time, and that was already 1 year ago, like if you're doing something with React, he didn't use it. He doesn't use that kind of terminology. That's why again we both like him, because he's not pushing on you, but he in kind of very strong words encourage you to use one of those technologies, because it's pretty much, again, it does all the heavy lifting for you. Now, which one you choose, that's really up to you. That's your preference. And again, I'm not bashing Gatsby. I'm not bashing Next.js. I think they're both wonderful, but I think that Next.js is taking over, if we're being perfectly honest. So, and as a side note, I don't even have a course on it. So technically, I could be saying the other way, but I won't. So
That'll be the next question. When's the next JS course coming, John?
yeah, that's okay. This is something that we can do another two hours on a live stream, where basically like trust me, I would also want to produce 30 courses a year and all that. But unfortunately, it comes down to like I want to include bunch of things in there. Basically, I want to cover as much as possible in that one course. And even with all my courses, I still get, like, for example, HTML and CSS. You can say rightfully so, where people say like, "Hey, but why the Sass is not included?" And the same goes for React course. Like, "Hey, why is this not?" And even though it's already 48 hours of projects, right? But it eventually just comes down to the fact where I want to include those things, so it takes me way longer. So, and this year the mess up was really because what happened, Gatsby came out with a new version, so I
Yep.
had to re-record the whole thing. I had like re-record 20 hours or whatever, because I think that's the worst, when you buy a course and it's out of date. I personally think like, hey, listen, if that's the case, then take it out of the, don't sell it anymore. For example, I took out my Bootstrap course because it's Bootstrap 4, and it feels like, well, I'm like robbing. Why would you sell something that if it's outdated? That's kind of, like, just scammy, in my opinion. So Next.js, it will be there, but first Node.js, and most likely I'll go with Mern right now. But I mean, we'll see. It's it's up in the air.
Another funny story talking about you. Like you update your courses, which is phenomenal, amazing. But I remember I went through your whole React course, and it was all class based. And then like all of a sudden at work we started using functional components. I log into Udemy, all of a sudden your whole course is using functional components. So I'm like, perfect. Look at that. I can't go wrong. I got this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
No, no,
yeah,
no.
that's
This
good.
is another,
Up
like,
to date.
again,
Up to date.
and I don't want to make this into whiny story or nothing, but this is again something. By the way, thank you, Dudley. Me and Dudley are actually going way back. It's I don't know whether I should share the story, but no, no, we're cool with Dudley. But initially he was anyway. He donated $5. Thank you very much, Dudley. And he's saying, "I'm used to John speaking at twice the speed." Listen, if you do that, perfect. I cannot stand to listen to myself in one, because when I have to edit, I do usually one, and then when I quickly want to listen to something, I always go on two. So I personally suggest, if you can, then do it on two, because I understand that my talking is sometimes slower, and I try to explain and everything, and also, but at the same time, it's funny how sometimes people say that I talk too fast. Again, it depends probably on like where you like watching, right? So how familiar you are with, like, not English language, but more like slang and that type of thing. But Yeah, thank you, Dudley. Dudley, we go, like I said, way back with Dudley. He enrolled in my Bootstrap course, and no, 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 we're cool now. We're cool now. What else? What else? What else? Okay. Again, I said that I had the site here, and then I removed it. So I don't know. Should I start from the end, or like what's your suggestion? How do you approach this?
I mean, you could go through like the list and see. And also, I saw a comment. Somebody said my audio might be low.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's
Yeah.
coming low, but let us know, guys. Yeah. So if you see good questions, pick them out. If I spot one, I could pick it out too, or we could go through the stuff on Twitter.
E.
I
Okay.
know. I know when people do super chats, those come up on top. Not saying that people should, but like a lot of
Yeah.
times when it's super busy and you
Yeah.
want the
They.
question to go to the top,
Mm,
you could do a super chat if
yeah.
that's something you're
Yeah.
into.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
All right. So what else? Vue 3, Vue.js. Uh, Again, I'm not gonna like repeat the what I just said pretty much, just because I don't want to bore you. Where, uh, eventually, yeah, that would be create awesome to create Vue.js, but honestly, React is coming out with a massive update. It's gonna be React 18 out. Pretty. I mean, pretty soon means maybe sometime next year. But so I'm looking at another massive, pretty much course update. Uh, so how realistic is Vue.js? Not so sure. I'm most likely will. I think I'm gonna even get rid of Svelte at some point because I'm just not gonna be able to keep up and all
Ye-
that.
yeah, let me give you 2 cents here because like you got to think of it, if you're trying to break into the field, like to give you an idea, I was 35 when I started learning to code. I didn't apply myself until I was like 37, 38, 39. So I eventually got my job at 39. And at the beginning, I tried to learn everything. And I realized that learning everything, you're basically going to know nothing. So, what you have to do is you have to pick something that's in demand in your area. And for me, it was React. So, if there's a lot of jobs in your area for Vue and there's nothing else, that would make sense. But where I live, there's plenty of React jobs, plenty of JavaScript jobs. So, I committed just learn React, be job ready. I didn't even bother learning Node until I got hired and
Mm-hmm.
just do one thing well. I see a lot of people jumping around and they never quite finish one tech stack. And then they're kind of like, why can't I get a job? And it's because, you might be trying to learn everything. I
Mm-hmm.
personally did React and JavaScript.
No,
So
yeah, that's something. One of the tips, as a side note, we talked about in on Paul's channel. We recorded. We're still editing. It's gonna take a while, but eventually it's gonna be there. So like stick to fundamentals. Like that's it's if I can give you like, I mean, again, you don't have to take my advice, but if you can, let's say, if you want to listen to whatever I have to say or Paul has to say, then sticking to fundamentals, because I'm, again, nothing against Vue.js, but I view it as far as the job market, I view it as an extra. So essentially, you start with HTML, CSS, JavaScript. You get good at it, and then once you get good at it, then you can proceed to React, and then picking up Vue.js is not, it's not going to be hard, because what you need to understand is that frameworks are there to do specific things, and if you really look at it, there's not that much difference between them, apart from like how they do it. The same as like Next and Gatsby, right? So they both try to accomplish the same things. They want pretty much take all those things that are annoying. Like, because as a front end developer, do you really want to deal with, let's say, image optimization? Probably no. You want to, just pipe it through something and get it done. And it's the same thing with the frameworks. At the end of the day, because it's, for example, pain to build a site uh, with users, right? With just vanilla JS. I'm not saying it's impossible, but trust me, it's way easier with React. And that's those like state management and those type of things they really solve. So yeah,
yeah,
that's.
yeah, I was gonna say, this is your first live stream. I'm so excited. And by the way, for all of you guys there, if you haven't smashed the like button, because this is apparently what we have to do to let the YouTube algorithm promote this to a greater viewership. But by the way, don't smash the button for me or John. Smash it for all the awesome people in the chat leaving awesome comments. And
Yep, and
Let,
we
let's let's take it to the moon, like people say.
yeah,
Whatever I
let's
don't even know what the cool kids say anymore.
smash it like there's no
Smash and spin.
tomorrow. We got
Exactly.
another
Exactly.
Dudley is saying, I can't wait for your Bootstrap 5 course, John. Yeah, I'm sorry, Dudley. I mean, again, I don't want to be bearer of bad news, but I really don't know when it's gonna be possible because it's again it's just going as it's going, and I've noticed to kind of just if I start getting frustrated, it's not gonna go any faster regardless. So I kind of try to keep it with the flow and then see where it goes and everything. What do you guys think about Flutter? As far as does, I haven't done any work with as far as mobile. That's again something that I've been always putting it off because as far as my courses, by the time I'm gonna get there, the version's already gonna change like 7 times and all that. So
So what I wanted to add to that, because you guys, if some of you guys don't know me, like I'm actually known for having the most Udemy courses that I spend money on and didn't take out of anybody you guys know. I have over 300 like some odd courses. I have like 10 Flutter courses. I didn't take a single one of them. And so what I would say, guys, like if you say you want to learn Flutter because you have a particular problem that you're trying to solve, or that's what you want to do and get a job with, and you also did your due diligence and saw that there's a lot of Flutter jobs in your area, then go ahead and do it. But I want to be honest with you, like I'll use Firebase as an example. When you're picking a technology to use, there's a lot of stuff you could choose, but if you're trying to break into the field, you should probably pick the most in demand thing. So I used to build a lot of projects. There's a lot of tutorials on Udemy where they use Firebase everything, Firebase everything. When I finally went and started looking for jobs, I couldn't find a single job that used Firebase as a backend. They all use either MongoDB or PostgreSQL. And so Firebase to me as a beginner, even though it's easier to get started and it's amazing, it doesn't help me get job ready. And so I think whatever you guys find or whatever you like, make sure that you're choosing stuff that matches the job searches that you see in your area. Otherwise you're gonna do what I did my first 3-4 years, is waste a lot of time studying everything but not being able to get a job. And so kind of having constraints, like John says he'll never do like whatever course he said he wasn't going to do. That's because he's setting constraints, because he wants to do the best he can in the technologies that he has. And that's what I recommend for you guys studying, is pick the things that's popular that you like, and make sure you become the best you can at that narrow field so you could get to job ready quicker. You know what I mean? So that's my 2 cents.
and the only thing that I have to say is
Wow,
that,
wow, we got that sound effect just right there. Exactly.
first of all, the grandpa gets to use some stuff that he's very
That's good.
new, and
That's good.
second, no, that's why Paul is here now. While you were talking, um,
I like how
well,
you say grandpa. We're like literally so close in age. It's not even funny. But
so we got another super chat from Wendy Vanessa, and she's saying, John, thank you so much for a great job you've been doing. Thank you for everyone who has been watching tutorials and watching courses and all that. If you find this useful, and if that helps you to understand some kind of concept or to get a job, that's the best thing to like I hear. Essentially, like every time when somebody tells me like, "Hey, listen, I watched this and I got a job," or I now I understand the concept. That's pretty much the only thing that as someone who creates content, that's like the ultimate kind of I mean, I don't know what's the proper name for that, but anyway, so it's kind of the ultimate goal for when you create
yeah,
something. So
yeah, it's funny because like I really enjoyed your courses, and I was like, what I like about John and your channel. By the way, first let me complain a little bit. You guys have to remember that before I was coding after 30, I learned a lot of stuff from John's courses. So I just spent some money on John's course on Udemy. I'm so happy and excited. And I start doing the course, and then I go on YouTube. I go on YouTube because John said he had a YouTube channel, and I go click his like course on JavaScript. It's like the first 20 hours or something like that. And I was like, I just paid. And you know what? At first, I was mad. But then I was like, my God, John has such a big heart that he puts so much awesome content on YouTube for free that I was like, I'm going to buy all his other courses anyway at this point because you're doing a good thing. And you literally give people the flexibility that cannot afford to pay. They could literally go to your channel. You like really have so much amazing content on it. And you're all about the code. You don't talk about like the drama. I never saw a video where you're like standing next to your car with like drones flying around and like, in 3 days you could get this job. All you gotta
Um,
do is take my Bootstrap 4 course. It's
yeah,
just
no,
not
no, no.
happening. And so,
That's
like, I want to say, like, that's kind of why I was happy that I kind of met up with you because you're all about helping people improve their lives. And me being like, 41 now, I don't want to waste anybody's time. I don't want to talk about like I just want to talk about what is the realistic thing you could do today to get a job tomorrow. Like I don't need to tell you a story to I mean I have stories, but I don't have to like sell you a dream because I don't care about I care about can you get the job and are you doing the steps that you need to take to get there. And that's kind of what I like about you is that you're all about your mission, which is educating as many people and helping them to get a job. And you don't care about the drama. You don't whine, which is good, like Krishan does
yeah, no, no,
sometimes.
no. That's
Just kidding.
same here.
Yeah.
And no, no, no. It's and that's a good point that you brought up as far as like why stuff is on YouTube. And it comes down really to a few things. First, I don't think like personally when I watch something, I always watch on some kind of platform because it's easy for me to, let's say, if you have video, you know where you stopped and all that. And so my goal is always if I can do something where I'm not putting the entire course. This is what people misunderstand. They think that, oh, it's the entire course. Like if you take a look at what's on there, it's you can find that stuff online. It's just the difference is that I've went through all this. I've made like kind of I explain in how I see it, right? In so you understand that because just because something like let's say is out there, some kind of content doesn't mean that you still need to package it together. You need to like make explanations. You need to kind of uh, make sense of all that. And then when it comes to courses, this is where you get actually the stuff what you pay for.
Yeah.
I would never be like, hey, listen, here's the whatever free stuff, and then it's actually like for $10 or how many dollars on Udemy it is. I mean, it wouldn't make any sense to sell it that way. So
Yeah.
this is what like I guess it's a little bit misunderstanding where yeah, courses are long and therefore let's say if there's an HTML and CSS tutorial, it's not helping meaning it's not hurting anybody if it's
Right.
there. You can
Yeah.
find the same tutorial but it's
Yeah.
just my explanation. So if the person likes it, if he or she comes to YouTube, then they can move on to a Udemy. And if they don't, then that's fine. Then at least they have a decent enough preview. What I never liked, like when I started, I never liked when instructors were hiding their projects. Kind of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there was never a preview. It's like, listen, like just
They'll pay
show
money
what
for
you
it.
have.
Yeah. Show. Yeah.
So
No, but I like that because after like doing the YouTube course, I'm like, I need more, and so go and get the rest of it. But one thing I was gonna say, there's so many courses out there, but one thing that I like your courses in particular, and I don't. By the way, if you guys think I'm saying it because I'm on this podcast, I said this way before, and I recommended John to so many of my friends to learn courses because biggest thing you could do is learn how to build things on your own, and you put so much practice projects that I mean it in a good way that you get sick and tired of building
mm,
projects, but
mm,
I mean it
mm.
like in the way where I could tell that it's important for you that people get repetition and do the work.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's good, and that's what you need to do. To get a job.
Yeah,
You
no,
need to
no,
be
no.
able to do the thing that you're learning to do. Yeah,
That's
it's like,
that's another kind of I like how we're just skipping questions. We'll come back, guys, I promise. But let me just add to this one where uh this is something that where people for let's say when somebody's taking a course, right? I hear a lot of times this like, well, why is it that you don't give us the challenges or whatever? A lot of times again it comes down to the personal preference where I think it's let's say okay, imagine this scenario. You have two options. You need to build some kind of typical vanilla JavaScript application where you fetch the data, correct? And if I were to tell you, let's say you don't know fetch and you don't know how to render a list and all that, hey, go and do that. How would you do that? Well, what would you do? You would go and still search through the blog post at the end of the day anyway. So what is better if I show you how to do that with different type of application? Let's say you're getting some kind of cocktails or whatever, and then I say, hey, now just like I showed you, go and do, let's say, with GitHub users or something along those lines. Like to me, it's always, it's not, you don't need to be unique. What you need to be, you need to understand like how certain applications are built. And I use this term bread and butter because like you probably, I mean, will agree with me where when it comes to JavaScript application, like what three things or whatever things you'll do. You'll fetch data, you'll iterate
Yep.
over lists, and you'll display them on the
Display
screen.
it.
And
Yep.
it's like like this loop. So once you get the hold of that, then then it's going to be much more easier for to build your own projects. I'm sorry, as always, I'm rambling, but
No,
this is something that I wanted to
and
say.
it's good. And like one of the things, like in your one of your React store courses, with where you had the cell phone stores. I don't know if you already updated that because I took your course a long time ago.
No,
But
that's
you did. It's a great course, by the way. And what I really liked about it is because another thing you do is going like through filtering, and you did a couple of different like options how you could filter
mm.
through. Like it's kind of cool. So yeah, but I look at the questions because we kind of in the
Yes,
same
yes, yes.
point, and somebody was saying, I guess it's Jack said, he's from Korea. He says nice to meet us, and then he says he's got this problem. He can understand other people's tutorial code, but he can't write his code by himself. I mean, he can, but it's only very basic things, and so and I saw another one, someone saying I'm in tutorial hell, like, assuming like they have like bajillion courses too. Like, what's the next step, or how could people approach this, to get better at writing code themselves?
So again, for me, it comes down to pretty much to what I just said. If we're talking about if you want to build an application, I would if you're let's say the eventual goal would be like this, where you take a look at something that's online and you just like, I mean, I'm talking about you visit websites and you're like, okay, I like this feature. Let's say I can see that it's done with JavaScript and I want to recreate myself, right? But if you're not at that stage, if you don't feel comfortable, then again, I would go back to when somebody else builds the application for you. Again, I wouldn't pick like 3 hour application. I would pick something like if you're struggling, let's say, with the basics, I would start with half an hour application, whatever, something like small and all that. And then as boring as it sounds, I would try to. That's what I did pretty much in the beginning. You try to recreate yourself. So you take a look, okay, that was his approach. And I know it sounds like, well, why would I ever do that? But you try to, you force yourself, okay, I don't know, maybe let's do like first 3 lines, you do it yourself. Okay, you go and look at it and you build it multiple times until you're comfortable. And this is like a very important point that I'm trying to make, that it's for me to tell you honestly, it's very when I'm learning something, I don't spend 10 hours a day on like basically going through the content because after the first 2 hours, I realized that it's pretty much I'm just like one ear in, one other one out. So for me, it's always important that whatever stuff you take, then try to apply like force yourself somehow some way so it kind of sticks in your head. I maybe it doesn't make sense what I'm saying right now, but kind of if you're struggling to make the basics, I would force yourself just to copy it first, right? And
Right.
then the not just, I mean, again, it's there's two ways how you can copy, right? There's ways when you can copy, just copy and paste, and there's the ones you literally are like, okay, what do I need to do to fetch, right? How do I fetch data, right? Like once you understand that, then you can move on to the next one. How do I go over the list? Once you build that small application where you fetch data and you render something on a screen, try to do it yourself. Repeat the steps because this is what you'll do. And this is again, I think we were talking about this behind the camera and all that, but that there's things that you will like repeat. You'll do all the time. And the more you'll do them, the easier it's gonna get. And the stuff that you won't do it, you'll just go and look it up.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the gist of it. Okay, we're
Yeah,
like
to add to that, guys, look, it's not a race. You have to really understand that you have to get to a point where you're building your own things to get comfortable with the things that you're learning. Because what do you think you're going to do at your job? You're not going to have a tutorial that you watch at work. you're going to be asked to do a certain thing, and you're going to have to be able to do it yourself. So the sooner you guys start, working the basics to the point where you could do it on your own, and like John says, the stuff that you don't remember you could look up, it's very important to do that. My first time starting my job, it was kind of like a shock, because I was used to doing a lot of tutorials, and then I was sitting in front of a computer screen, and the guy's like, "You got to do this feature for us," and blah 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 blah. I'm like sweating. I'm like, Jesus Christ! I just got here. I'm gonna get fired. I'm gonna get fired. Like I said, I'm gonna get fired for like at least the first 6 months of my job, and then
Mm.
eventually I worked there a year and a half, and then I moved on. But since you have an awesome Node course, and you also have an awesome React course, there's a question by Gabriel. I don't think we answered it. Is should you learn React first or Node?
I would
What-
definitely say React. I
Yeah,
would. This is again. This is going to lead me to another topic, where essentially I don't suggest to become full stack developers right away. I don't. I think that it makes way more sense if you start with HTML, CSS, then JavaScript, and then you proceed to React, and then you can, you know, I mean, arguably, but you can call yourself a front end dev. And why I'm saying arguably, because it's all like it's so blurry, the same as senior developer and all that. It's yes, they exist, meaning like the titles, but it's yes, you are a front end developer, but uh, like once you get there, by the way, it's going to be much more faster for you to pick up Node. But I would never go HTML, CSS, JavaScript, then Node, and then React. I think that it's React
yeah,
kind of gives you this complete stuff where you can build like really cool front end apps, and then while you're building them, you'll understand why you need that backend in the first place. Because then you'll start
right.
like, hey, listen, I need to, like you were telling me in the beginning, one of the conversations, you said like people need to know how to like make a post request and all that. And you start like your gears kind of are like spinning in your head. You're like, hey, so if I have these blog posts, but I want to create one, so how do I do that?
Yeah,
Before that, it's like, well, okay, let me just get the list and
yeah,
just get
yeah,
it
yeah,
out of
yeah.
here and whatever. So
Yeah,
that's
Yeah, I would say from my experience, I did not do any backend development at all until I got my first job. I literally concentrated on HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, and I also learned style components. And until I got hired, I really focused on front end, and I do think it's easier. I also talked recently to somebody who does a lot of interviews, and this guy interviewed in a lot of FANG companies, which I probably won't
mm,
even bother interviewing. But the what he said to me is someone who's going for a back end role, like had more algorithmic, data structured heavy interviews. And that makes sense because when you're working on a back end, there is no pretty view to
mm,
show
mm,
anything.
mm,
So you're
mm,
probably
mm.
dealing with like super complex logic, so it is harder. So I was actually complaining to John earlier how at work I have to do this thing which is pretty complex. And I'm like, oh my God, why can't I just focus on the front end? But, back end is harder. So if you're just starting out, you know, unless you hate HTML, CSS, and the visual part of it, and you just like working with databases, which is nothing wrong with that, it's much easier to go, like John said, learn React. Like I'm at a point now, like I'm a Node beginner, I would say right now, and I'm trying to master Node now, but I've already been working as a React developer for 2.5 years, so.
And little like side note or Node, you'll also have to decide like what the one of the big things is going to be deciding what kind of database you want to use. And
I
one
was gonna,
one
yeah, go
thing you
ahead.
need to understand is that when it comes to, let's say, industry, it does mean like SQL. So a lot of it, and therefore, but it pretty much it adds right away to the course. Let's say, oh, okay, we got another 10, no, 9.99 from Ola. Thank you very much, Ola. And what you need to understand is that you will need to like learn SQL. At the end of the day, like again, if we're talking about like actually starting to apply for jobs and whatever, you can get
Yep.
away with a lot of things with MongoDB. Like that's very very nice for your own projects. You can just smooth like kind of through it. But when it comes to industry, that's SQL is going to be way. So therefore, I'm saying like starting Node right after JavaScript. I
Yeah,
Personally, wouldn't do it.
it's tough. And your comment on like SQL, it's actually super true. Like I know earlier in the stream I talked about Firebase because there's so many projects that use Firebase. Literally, like every job you apply to, they're either using MongoDB or most of the time they're using SQL. So at some point you're gonna have to learn it. But MongoDB is just easier because they have that online place where you could just set
Mm-hmm.
everything up and it's very easy to connect to. But yeah, PostgreSQL or SQL or whatever, they're
Yeah, no, no,
rough.
no. That's definitely a something that you kind of need to, again, if you're serious about, if it's, again, there's a huge difference between whether you're just using Node to make your own project, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. Like when you're building, like, let's say Mern stack, right? It does make sense to use Mongo to get up and running and everything. But the moment you start actually applying for jobs, in most cases, if people aren't telling you the truth, they will be looking for SQL. So you need to be comfortable with that. So
Yeah, by the way, if you're enjoying this stream and you want to help us out, smash the like button because it makes it easier for other people to find it on YouTube. So if you haven't done it, go ahead and do it. If you did do it, thank you so much. Um, you have lots of different questions. Do you see any question that you want to go next? Because there's a couple that I see.
oh, I we just like we just went through like bunch of them. This is, yeah, by the way, again, I'm sorry guys if we're missing like bunch of your questions and everything. This is, there's a lot of them and you need to give me a little break. This is the first
That's
time,
part of
so
you being so famous. I don't. I on my
yeah.
live stream, guys, I don't have this problem because my live stream moves so slow. I could
No,
become,
that's
but
not
that's what
true.
happens when you're
You have
popular and you change a lot of lives. You
you
know.
have bunch of famous people coming in there with way more subscribers than me. But what is expected from junior web developer at workplace? I'm looking for a job and kind of feeling hesitation. I'm not sure if I'm ready or not. Thanks. Okay, this is like the brilliant question. So in general, like Paul is gonna testify to this as well. Like you're never ready. There's like, especially if that's your
That is true.
first job, you're never ready. There's no way you can get ready unless you probably built a better application than the company that is hiring
Yes.
you.
Yes.
Otherwise, you'll
Yes.
never,
Yes. That's a good
because
way to put it.
there's one major thing. Like I wouldn't even like, I personally, as far as my experience, I wouldn't say that kind of specific chunks of code. Like, I mean, eventually there's situations that come up and whatever, but a lot of it has to do that you work in the team. So, and there's entire, like, each company has its own setup. You know, you have your own rules, how you can, push it up, how you can commit, how you can, like, yada 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 yada. So the when the company hires you, they pretty much take a chance on you. That's what it is. It's not because they see, like, and this is where I always talk about, like, if you show them that you give a damn, right? That you care about code, and it's not just like Paul just said about the fancy car and basically what's the name? This anyway, I'm not gonna name that channel,
That's
but
fine. That's fine.
no, it's not what you think. It's someone we haven't talked about yet, but
There's a lot of those on YouTube. There's a lot. A lot.
yeah, but it's not. Again, we agreed that we won't bash anybody.
No.
But
No. No. No.
anyway,
No.
so if it's about that, like, you are competing with hundreds and hundreds of people. So like, my always suggestion is, come, like, show them that you care. Show them that this is what you like to do. I mean, again, I understand that coding is still a job. I'm not saying that you should code like 7 days a week and whatever, but show them that you care, and then from then they will, like Paul was saying, the first 6 months he was like, oh my god, they will
I'm
fire
gonna
me
get fired,
every
of
day,
course.
right?
Oh my
but
God.
but it's the same thing as, like, I talked to friends here in LA. It was like, he's 1 week stuck stuck on a problem, and he's like, every meetup he comes in and it's like, oh my god, I haven't done that. So yeah,
Yeah, somebody once asked me like, "How long have you been stuck in a problem?" Like a week. It's like at least, and somebody else is like 2 weeks. I'm like, and I felt better about myself. But I know we have a lot of questions, and you're probably closer to the bottom of the list, and I'm moving from the top. But I think
I,
this is a good question here because everybody wonders about this one. How important is learning about data structures for web development?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's
I kept
some
seeing that
servers.
question, but you were talking, and I didn't want to start interrupting. Yeah, I think I saw it like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, it's
This
so
is an
common.
extremely good question. And as far as my thing is, it comes down to, like, at least in my experience, it comes down to where you apply. If you'll go to your mom and pop shop in your area, then I mean, I personally don't see how, unless unless the hiring manager feels like a hero that day. I don't think they will give you a data structure question. It's like, realistically, it's gonna be like, hey, can you like set up the slider and that type of thing. If you're going for Fang, like Paul was saying, so we're talking about the what Amazon, Netflix, and all that stuff, right? Then there's no way they'll say like, "Hey, build a list and you'll be good to go." You will have to do the data structure. So
Yeah.
I like one thing that when we talked about with Paul about this, he previously said that it's a very good suggestion to learn how to build things first and then focus on the data structures, right? But you should, in my opinion, you should be comfortable with pretty much at least, setting something up on a screen. If you just learn how to basically iterate over the list and then you're going to data structures, I think you'll be overwhelmed. I think it's
Yeah.
once you get a good hold of, let's say, how to set up the application, you're not gonna forget that. It's still, you can still, meanwhile, while you're learning the data structures, you can still, like, let's say, build some, I don't know, some clones, right? Some, I don't know, uh, in my Node course, I'm just gonna give it shout out. We're building a Yelp clone and all that type of thing. But let's say, if we're talking about data structures, I wouldn't jump into them in the beginning, and I would seriously consider like what is the company you're looking for. And also, one last thing before I, if you're going for data structures, then most likely they will want some kind of experience from you to begin with. So you'll need to. I don't see
Yeah.
people just like straight up bootcamp walking into the Fang.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
can
No.
it
Yeah. It's
happen?
hard.
Yeah, but I just personally,
So
I don't see that
let,
many.
let, let me tell you guys a story because I think this put in perspective. Like somebody says to me, like, I have a friend, he studied Python for 3 months and he was able to get a job making $150,000 a year. And you know what? I have a friend like that. I'm not making that up. This guy, he learned Python
Mm,
and then he got a job making over $150,000 a year. And on paper you're like, oh shoot, we should just all quit and learn Python. And then I realized, because he told me, he's like, he has a PhD in math and he's
mm,
using Python as a tool to
yeah.
solve mathematical problems. He didn't get hired because he knew Python. He got hired because he understands how to solve these mathematical problems and he uses Python to help him achieve that much faster. So he had the background, the education for it, and that's why he
Mm,
was able to
mm,
get that. But for someone like me, I would never be able to like do that. You know what I mean? And so what I was saying, my standpoint for algorithms, I think at some point you guys should learn higher concepts of programming. I'm like a big nerd, like I love programming, but this is what I told myself. If I can't build anything, I'm not going to even bother learning algorithms or data structures. Because if I can't build a project, what am I going to show in my portfolio to get a resume, like,
mm,
or
mm,
my
mm,
resume to get a interview in the first place? So if I
mm,
don't
mm,
have the skill to walk into the interview, like, I'm not going to worry about algorithms or data structures. I'm going
mm,
to make sure that
mm.
I know I could build the stuff and do the work that I would do at a job and then go from there.
Yeah, and then one last add-on is like, at least in my Twitter feed, here and there, I see quite a few times when somebody who has actually a lot of experience building the products, that are used in production, and basically they're being sarcastic where they say
Yep.
like, I built a product that is used by 6 million people, and yet you won't hire, like, kind of in a quotes. It doesn't mean, I don't think they're going to get the trying to get the job, but it's more like, and you won't hire me because I cannot do the algorithm.
Yep.
So I would be, in my perspective, it's not a requirement. Again, depending on the company you go for, but in general, I think it's a little bit overrated where you need to know the data structures and algorithms in order to get a job. It hasn't been my experience.
Yeah, I got
So
to call this out because I'm curious too. Techno Utopia says, can you show your tattoo on your right arm, John?
so where- this is where the chat is gonna end. We're just gonna, no, nothing. It's a tribal tattoo that I got.
It's at least you got a good one.
You think? No, no,
I
no.
like it better than my tattoo.
No, it's
I
no,
got a little tattoo here. It's a girl's name that I dated for a week in
for a
Thailand
week.
when I went to visit. Yeah, and this is the funny story here. Sorry, John, to like, cause this is stupid. This is when see you got a good tattoo. Let this be a lesson to people. I think life lesson. John, he got a tribal tattoo. Can't go wrong with tribal tattoos. I went to Thailand after my divorce, and I was like, you know what, whatever. I met this chick. I was like, you know what, I always want to get a tattoo, and people say don't ever get a girl's name tattoo ever, and I
You
was like,
should.
whatever, you know what? So I got a girl's tattoo because I'm like, who else is gonna understand what the name? And I come back to US 3 years later. I'm in US, hang out. I meet this girl, and she's cool. Happened to be really nice, and apparently she's from Thailand. And I was like, oh, are we gonna
Jeez.
date? And she's like, oh, that's a cool tattoo. And because she reads Thai, she's like, oh, it's a girl's name. I'm like, yeah, it is. Here's the short version. This is going to be my wife now. Uh, and now I'm like,
And now I
Jesus
have to.
Christ, I have this other girl's tattoo, and I'm like, I feel so bad. And she's like, oh, you could keep it, but I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
big
bro.
mistake. So,
Yeah, no, 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 no.
um,
It's been. I don't. I haven't been. I haven't been considering putting anyone's name on it apart from my daughters and stuff. But yeah,
yeah, you
it's
can't go wrong with that. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, the daughters are that wouldn't But there. No, no, no. This one, yeah, I got right before when she was born, and
yeah,
the plan is to kind of expand eventually. But I'm real like I'm if you have noticed like how many times I've re-recorded stuff, like let's say
yeah.
even this the intro for the live stream, so I'm being very careful when it comes to this type of thing because I know that eventually like I might like regret and everything. We keep getting PHP questions. So we kept
Yeah,
getting
let's do it.
10
Let's do it.
10,000 10,000 data structures, and I'm not being mean. 10,000. I meant like there was a repetition for data structures, and now we have for PHP. And this was also
Yeah,
something
so
that
that's
was
why we're good.
on Twitter. I actually like PHP, and funny story. So I learned it for 1 week. I'm not and by the way, I have no like negative feelings towards it. Let's put it this way. I think that it's a little bit over exaggeration. The all the bad things it gets. So and actually, what's interesting that in a 1 week of PHP, I kind of realized that I can do as much as I learned in like with JavaScript. To it took me, let's say, way longer, right? I remember the first time when I was learning JavaScript and I got the list. So I don't even know whether I fetched it from somewhere, but I got it on a screen, and that wasn't because I was like you. I was on and off, so it wasn't like straight up. Okay, 3 months, and then I learned. I learned, then I did something else, learned, and then eventually, once I got that list on a screen, I was like, "Oh my god, so amazing!" And the point of my story with PHP, I did that in like fourth day, I think, when I was just doing so I had to understand what's so bad about it, and it's so funny. Like if you listen to one of the latest syntax episodes, they actually talk about how the modern JavaScript is essentially, of course, there's a difference in syntax, but we're moving towards all the things that PHP was already doing like for already how many years, right? And again, I truly like. I always believe that you should start with understanding what is happening with your area. There's a lot of you'll hear a lot of this, YouTube heads, Twitter gurus who tell you like a bunch of stuff, but you should always start with your local area. You should understand what's happening. Hey, what is popular? What are people hiring? And that's what I mean by popular, not just again, not what people like, but what people hire for. And if that is PHP, I would have no problem learning PHP. I have no like
Yeah.
this to kind of have this like I'm only going to work for a React company because Angular sucks. I mean, I disagree with that 100%. I think that, especially with your first job, you're kind of doing disservice to yourself. And you're
Yeah.
not, if you're doing this just because somebody told you to, it's a very, very bad kind of, in my opinion, decision.
Yeah, in other countries, PHP is like, and
The
even in
king,
US,
the
it's
king.
still like, yeah, the king, the popular stack. I actually started with PHP making WordPress
Mm,
themes,
mm.
but then I switched to JavaScript and React because I liked it better. And but that's a personal preference. But it's not that PHP is bad. Like if like would if you do PHP, you could make money if you're good at it. If you
Mm,
do
mm,
JavaScript, React, you could
mm,
make money.
mm.
The only caveat being, just like you said, John, is that if you do, like, let's say PHP, and in your area there's like .NET jobs or whatever, then
Yeah.
it's like you're gonna have a hard time. Like, make sure you do something that is available in your area. But there's nothing wrong with the uh, language. I
Do you wanna hear the mind grenade? Sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead, go
Did
ahead,
you
go ahead.
know that Nashville is a bunch of .NET shops? That's as far as I know. I was
Well,
very surprised. Like it's
yeah,
literally like it's so if you're in that type of
area, yeah.
area, and if you're like if you know that language or whatever, then it's actually very popular there. I was like first time I never thought of why some area, but yeah, .NET is like king over there. So just
Yeah.
mind grenade.
I was gonna say, I think we're doing okay because we have 203 likes.
Yes,
Yes, more
yes, and
like, guys, more likes, because
the algorithm. Yes, yes.
exactly.
Is it really the algorithm? I
Yeah, the
never.
more people like the stream, like, the more it shows to other people that have similar interests to the person that is watching, and they'll like promote it more. It's like YouTube's weird.
You see,
But
guys, if you need any advice when you're starting the channel, you know where to contact
oh my
Paul.
god, listen, if
He's
let me
gonna
tell,
lift your channel
I know
from
somebody
the
was
ashes.
like, there's like a couple of comments like, "What's your full time job?" or like whatever. Like, and here's the thing: like, I started YouTube, and I'm gonna give you a word of advice. What's gonna get faster? You get a job as a developer, or you're making money on YouTube? What do you guys think? Is get a job as a developer. It's way faster and more money. Like, I had this channel for like 3 years now, 4 years now. I make like $2 last month for the month, and after taxes, it's probably like 25 cents.
No, but
So
you know what? What's really interesting? That's a very quick sign out. So when I started this channel when I was still like in very miserable job, and that's something that we will try to. I mean, but it looks like we have so many questions. So unfortunately, I don't think we'll get to any of the Twitter ones. We'll have to figure out some other time and all that. But I was doing that, so I was working that miserable job. The money was especially for area was very decent, but the hours were long and all that. But I remember the first time when I got, I believe from YouTube, $10 or something, and it's like compared to my day job, I was getting that, in whatever the moment I showed up, right? But then, then when you get those $10 from you, you think like, oh my, this is like I'm a king. I
yeah,
mean,
exactly.
it's like you feel that money is so amazing and whatever. But you know what? Something interesting I want to touch on. So I don't know whether guys on feed want to know that. Remember when we talked about something where from the outset, everyone wants to work in Fang, right? Like, or any kind of major company. But yeah, at the same time, bunch of people who work in Fang wants to do YouTube. So riddle me that. What's like? How is that? So if the person, let's say, works in Google, right, and yet at the same time they leave the Google to do the personal coaching or whatever. So I'm not saying that it's bad to work there, but it's something to think about. Where it's actually it's kind of these interesting streams where certain group of people want to get in, and then the other one is
Yeah.
actually like, no, I actually want to work for myself.
Yeah, it's very interesting because a lot of people don't know. I used to be a Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor, and I did that for 16 years, teaching martial arts and MMA and stuff. And for a lot of people, that was like a dream job. They would give like their
Mm,
liver to be in my place.
mm,
And for me, like, it was fun and great, but I realized I wanted to do something that's more creative, something that, like, you kind of think and try to solve things. And that's kind of how I transitioned into development. And it's kind of interesting, like you're saying, is that, people have this idea, oh, wouldn't it be awesome to work there? And
mm.
then when you get there, you're like, whatever. But
No,
go
sorry.
ahead.
That's as a side note. Today I was walking a lot with the daughter, and usually like I get to either I listen to books or whatever I think. And this is one of the things where I was thinking today about like kind of interviewing people that have very good professions and yet they decide to switch to development. Because this is I've been always curious about it because, for example, right, if you work in air travel, right, for me, like especially before family, seemed like a very cool thing. You get to
Yeah,
travel, you get,
yeah,
and yet there's people who switch from over from that. There's people there's people who are switching, let's say, from finance. They don't seem to, even though when I was going for electrical engineering, those were my two options. I was thinking, well, either should I do finance or electrical engineering, and yet, and no, and then they're switching away from that. So that's also like, oh, we get os. Yes, we have the.
Yeah, yeah. Somebody like in the jiu-jitsu world.
Yep, yeah,
Nice.
yep. How much Brazilian did you know, Paul? By then,
I didn't know any Brazilian, but I picked up the accent because everybody I was around was Brazilian. So I had a lot of people ask me, "Are you from Brazil?" Like, I'm not gonna do the accent right now. It's been a long time. But when I would teach classes, I would sound,
by the way, if you want to
part
get better at
Brazilian.
jiu-jitsu, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. That's another bad habit. So, few things you need to understand if you're watching this live stream. A, I don't smile. Even doesn't mean that I'm angry. I just don't smile. B, I interrupt people. That's again not trying to be mean, but just do it. If you want to learn jujitsu, go to BJJ Friends. Actually,
Yeah, BJJ and friends. Yeah,
super useful content. I've
yeah.
said
The
on.
channel that I don't do anymore because now I have even awesomer channel called Coding After 30. But yeah, if you do jujitsu, BJJ and friends has some of my older videos on. But like, listen, if you, by the way, this is what I want to say. If you're doing development and you're looking to break into the field, I was talking to John off screen, is that this is a lifestyle. You know what I mean? It's not like something that you just do part time, if that makes sense. It's like you have to commit. And one of the reasons why I wanted to start a channel is because I wanted to do everything that I do in my life revolve around coding and getting better at programming. And at the same time, I wanted to share my story about my reality and the struggle like that it took me to get to where I am today. And those who don't know, like I dropped out of college. I didn't finish. I had my daughter when I was 19 years old, so I
Wow.
was too busy taking care of her, doing the stuff. And then I, did martial arts forever. And then I switched to development. And you know, somebody asked actually, do you need a degree? And some jobs you do, and a lot of jobs you don't. Like I don't have a degree. I was able to get hired. So literally, it's one of those jobs where you have all the tools like from John's Udemy courses from online to learn everything you need. The cost of entry is barely like nothing. Like, you don't have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to go for 4-year degree. Like literally anybody could do it and it could change your life because if you're good, like 3 to 5 years, it's not unheard of for people making over 100K. And to me, that's kind of crazy. I'll be happy if I make like, you know, whatever, but it's amazing. And I think it's definitely one of those things that changes lives. And with this pandemic, like the ability to work remote, it's like amazing, you know?
Yeah, and that's also something I want to mention where there's people. I think it's very easy to get carried away with numbers, but what you need to understand that like when you're talking about areas where you live, like San Francisco with 120,000, I don't want to like use any kind of derogatory terms, but you're not rich. Like so when let's say when I lived in Chicago, when you're getting that type of money, you are considered well off, right?
Yeah.
And you go to
Yeah.
California and that
No,
120 is a whatever change in your pocket. So
yeah.
that's also something where I wouldn't always focus on just the money sign, because at the end of the day, when you take off the living expenses, when you take this, and the same goes for Europe, you also need to understand that in the United States these numbers are inflated, where they're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, we're. You need to look at it like if the place you live is cheap, and you
Yeah.
can actually put the money away or whatever, it's not always about like just getting the biggest number, because you need to understand that the places with biggest numbers also the living expense is going to be humongous.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like New York, for example.
Yeah. 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 100%. 100%.
Okay, we keep getting this. What is your format configuration? Are we talking about the how I'm formatting the code? Because that's something I'm pretty much just using Prettier, and I
Yeah.
believe that they were making some kind of changes to it where it's now by default, but I'm not sure. I know that it was stuck for a moment, like one of those updates. What they did, my Prettier wasn't working, and then let me double check. And then I just okay. Let me. I think that's what the question is. I'm not sure. So if I go here and then settings, okay, JSON. So I have here pretty much, yeah, pretty, and then I set it up as default. So I'm pretty you can find that on, if you go to my GitHub, I have the Visual Studio Code one, the repo. You can see everything that I have here. I usually, as a side note, I always try to keep everything as close as to defaults as possible. Even though a lot of times I'm like, oh, I wish I would have this or that. I feel like if the person has pretty much similar setup to mine, which is most of the time the case, then it's easier for them. It's less confusing. So if there's any question, always it's the default setup. There's nothing really.
I think there's a question by uh, Michelle Huerta. It says, "How do you deal with imposter syndrome? You know, feeling like you're not good enough because you still have a lot to learn." And I think that's normal. You know, I still feel it 3 years later. You know, the one thing I would say, if you do get a job, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't wait like a day or 2 weeks, like some people, me for instance, and almost getting fired. But you should ask right away, you know, because people there are help you. But one thing I was going to say, something like, because I was thinking a lot about it, is like imposter syndrome, what do I mean? And a lot of times it's like my insecurity and my ability to code. And sometimes you know, like, what am I insecure about? And a lot of times it's like, I just don't know how to build like a basic website. Well, to me, that's a sign that let's practice the basics more, and you know, do more building rather than doing like too much. Like, you could watch tutorials for reference, but try to do more building on your own. When I like started doing that, it helped me to kind of get more confidence. Like, you know, that's why I have my YouTube channel. Like on Tuesdays, I do coding, like live codings. I make so many mistakes, but I do it because I want to practice building something and talking about it. I think that's important, you know, and that at least how it helps me deal with it. What are your suggestions for imposter?
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. It's we're we're always like, this is like very interesting topic, always has been to me for every, pretty much every field you're in. It's about, like, you always compare yourself to someone else, right? But the thing is, it's not, it's really irrelevant, because you need to always compare yourself to what you were like yesterday and what you were a month ago, because the growth is happening like as you're working on it. And then if you just say like, okay, I'm not good enough because, you know, this and this and this guy is really good, it's like kind of no win situation, because you always will be there, you know. And as far as your own development, that's one of the, again, keeping, I keep doing shout outs to our tip series. But you need, like, this is you need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, where you'll never know everything. There's so much to learn, there's so much to know. And, you know, it is kind of like embarrassing when I say, well, I really haven't worked with React Native or Flutter or whatever, any mobile ones. But what am I like supposed to like pretend that I know everything? Like, I don't, like, I haven't worked. So my opinion is very little, and I try to kind of stick in my lane. So that's also something that you can progress if you stick to something. But as far as that feeling where you're like, well, there's no way I can, you know, they can pay me for my job or whatever, that will never go away. And that's just I like Paul was saying, you just you kind of just, you make the goal to get yourself better to where you were this morning, yesterday, whatever, and everything else is just a flag that you just, you know, you need to keep ignoring. I mean, I know it's easier to say. Trust me, I also, like, a lot of times think like, well, why, like, how can I make such dumb mistakes? But yeah, that's just part of the process of growing.
Yeah, by the way, I was gonna say, like, we have already almost 250 likes, and it's just, oh my god, it just jumped to 252. And the reason why I say this is because, you know, John was like wondering like how many people gonna show up, how many, like, whatever. And I'm telling you, like, you have so many people whose lives you changed. I was like, I don't think it's gonna be a problem. But man, thanks guys to all of you who are
Yep.
here and for smashing the like button. If you know, obviously it helps other people to see the stream if you guys like. But man, you guys are awesome. Thank you for jumping in. And I kept telling John, I like, you know, I didn't know him for like 20 years, but I feel like if I did know him for 20 years, I've been like, why don't you do lives? Why don't you do lives? Like, people need to see you, because like, you help so many people, and people are wondering who's this mysterious coding
Yeah.
addict or John. By the way, I think Oli asked a while ago. I know there's so many like chats jumping in, but this is one that I want to know. Like, why did you name your channel Coding Addict?
Uh, wow. I think it was some like I know definitely my wife helped me with that because I bounce my ideas like off her. That's like a lot of like good things that you see is because me like being because I need that sounding board. I need someone to because it's very easy to get stuck into something and like don't get me wrong, I like to do things my way, so like to come up with kind of some kind of ideas, but I always like to bounce the ideas off her, and usually what happens is I'm talking and either I make a decision or then she tells me. So it's definitely one of the things that somehow someway it was either I gave her three choices and she said, "Yeah, that makes sense," because I was very iffy on the addict part. I didn't want to sound off as like, like addiction. But at the same time, I really enjoyed coding. So it was definitely something that I wanted to pick something in that lane. And as far as I remember, she definitely had some kind of input. So whenever she will listen to this stream, she's gonna be very happy that I said
Yeah,
that.
yeah. By the way, somebody was asking because they're like enjoying the stream. They're asking, are you gonna leave these streams up on your YouTube channel for people
Yes,
to see? Yeah,
yes, yes,
that's
yes,
awesome.
yes. They
That's
will
awesome.
be up to see. One thing, guys. Uh, if you could just give me your view on because I put on my YouTube. I put two intro videos. So one was where I look like a vampire behind. Basically, behind me was the famous brick wall, and the other one is like what you see right now. So I think that I'm gonna go with this one, but just if you could give me your opinions, that would be awesome. Then I could just feel better about my decision that I make and all
Yeah,
that.
I'm trying to find like more questions, but all the comments like, John, you're awesome. You changed my life. You're the greatest. Like
Yeah,
it's
we
so
need
good.
to.
It's so awesome. Like when John reached out to me and he's like, oh, like it'll be cool to have you on the live stream. I'm honored because I'm just starting out my journey. It's amazing. But what I was gonna say, it's this like idea of working with like-minded people and being with people that stand for the same thing, who want you to get ahead, really care for your success. And I could see through the comments like that's exactly the type of people you guys are. And it's amazing, you know that through like it's just so amazing to me to see like how many people you touch. That's it's fantastic, so awesome.
Yeah, it's this is I again like I believe again it was one of the tips that we recorded. I was telling you that I never this was never intention at all. It was for me the biggest thing when I got into everything, and this is not me like patting myself on the back, but when I get in, I felt that the courses where there were two type of courses where there was only tutorials and then there was maybe one big project. And for me the biggest difference is like I didn't feel that I could learn with any of them, so I decided that I'm going to make just a bunch of small projects because that made the most sense to me. And that's where it kind of everything started. And also the same as with you, it's I wasn't I need like I found coding and I was very happy. So it wasn't for me like, this first job that I'm sick of, where it was the opposite. Like once I found coding, I was like, listen, this is what I want to do. This is really enjoy. And like the worst day in coding has been the far better than the days that I had before. So it's if like you just kind of enjoy doing that. So okay, so we have the Bayless code. I really wanted to do a shout out because he's been like the greatest supporter I think from very long time. So thank you very much, man, for watching and supporting me. Have you thought about trying blockchain and creating courses, mixing it with the front end? So funny story. After I posted, I think it was Gatsby video um, on Free Code Camp, I was contacted by one of the blockchain companies about the developer advocate, but I really don't. I thus I have no experience with it. Like none, and I just at this point in time I don't have whatever time it takes to learn. You know, basically I would need to drop everything, and that's I don't think I want to do that. But that's as far as that's as close as I've come to blockchain, where I kind of was tinkering in my mind whether I should do that or not. But
Actually, this is ridiculous. Sorry to interrupt. guys just blew my mind because Boris Kuznetsov, he says in Moscow, if you make 33,000 per year, you're doing awesome, which is insane because Moscow is one of the most expensive cities to live in. Like my dad still lives there. When I went to visit them, like
Mm,
downtown, like
mm.
I paid for coffee like almost like $6 or something like that. It's
Yeah, yeah. Moscow
ridiculous.
is this Moscow
It's
is
so expensive. I can't believe that. Wow, that's crazy.
yeah. No, no, no.
Crazy.
Moscow is one of those things where you
So expensive.
where it seems like they charge you like in New York, but
Yep.
the
People
quality
don't make,
is
yeah, don't make the money either.
they definitely not there. No, that's
Yeah, that's insane. But yeah, Moscow's beautiful though. Like I want to eventually go again.
for how long did you stay there?
I went for a month to visit my father.
Mm,
But I was like when I came here, like literally, like it was like maybe 7 years ago I went to Russia, but prior to that I just never went because we came here as refugees, and so my family was afraid if I go
mm,
there'll be
mm.
issues, and
Yeah.
also you have to serve your time in the military. So I went like when I was like way too old to the military to go
Mm.
because apparently they could do that.
Oh
They won't.
yeah, yeah, got it. Yeah, it was where I'm from Latvia. They yes, techno utopia. I believe we both speak in Russian. Uh, the what's the name? In Latvia they made it 27, but
Yeah,
by the time I was 22, whatever. In my mind, you were old man. Now I see you are young. This is yes. No, I'm actually a grandpa, but. No, I had today. There was a comment that they thought that I was a Mexican, but they look like I'm Finnish or Estonian. So
there you
that's what
go.
happens when you hide in the dungeon, and
Exactly. And then you
then
come out,
people think,
they're like, oh my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah. Then they think that whatever. What is the yes? Please talk about mobile development. Is React Native, Flutter the future? Blah 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 blah.
Actually,
Yeah. Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Sorry, I had
No, no, no. I was
personal
just about to
question because
say that as far as that, I don't have your John. Your voice is iconic. Well, little short story. I actually did surgery or procedure, however you call it, on my vocal cords because they were all messed up from I don't know. The doctor even didn't really couldn't tell, but yeah, like a month ago. So I'm at the moment happy. I don't know whether it's iconic, but it's better than it was before the surgery for sure. Can I put your Node.js projects in my resume? I'm sorry, we were talking about something, but I already forgot.
no, no, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
In searching a job, Node.js, a junior developer, you can put any of the projects that I have from any of the courses or whatever in your portfolio. One suggestion is like that's why I always share those courses and everything. But my one suggestion is have an idea of how to make that because this is what they will ask you. You can put 30,000 projects on your resume and everything, but you need to understand like how you actually did that. If someone asks you, well, so how do you filter the list, right? So that's why like I think it's very important not only to build a project, but at least try to kind of um, to rebuild some features yourself, and then you'll have a way better. But yeah, there's no any of the projects you can go ahead and use them. About Moscow, it's expensive for the tourists. I think me and my wife work from home, so it's not that expensive for us, and the apartment are ours. So we have a funny
That's
story.
common, yeah, in Russia,
Yeah.
by the way, to get that from the communist days. You keep your apartment that you live in. There's a saying I think called "apartment rich." A bunch of people who kept their apartments from that
Yeah.
era, they live in
Yeah.
one and then they rent the other ones. It's phenomenal.
Yeah. No, no, no. It's no, it's funny. We have a family of five. No, what am I talking about? Five kids, and then the parents. But they lived in China for a long time, and they came here, so they're neighbors. And he was actually saying that, well, at least, I mean, I don't know. He seems to be pretty well off, but he was kind of like saying that it's now cheaper in Russia. But this is not my personal like opinion, or I'm just saying that that's what I've been because of the economy and everything, that prices have gone down again. But that's not my kind of experience. Just saying, okay, thanks for the stream. Okay, I think now we can slowly start moving back because we are 1 hour 13 in, and then we can start slowly moving up. So we
Yeah,
have a
yeah, yeah,
bunch of
yeah.
things about Moscow. Okay, that makes sense. Can you put in the node project? Okay. Hi, Paul. What do you think about all these clones on YouTube? What's what what is clone?
Like clones of projects, maybe. I don't know if he's referring to that.
Hmm.
Um, for me, I kind of do have a bias about it. Like, if you build one clone of something or two clone of something, three, okay.
Hmm.
Like, you're starting out, you're learning.
Hmm.
At some point, though, you should build your own thing. Um, because like it seems like everybody jumps from tutorial to tutorial to one YouTuber doing like clone of Twitter, one
Hmm.
other YouTuber, and so like you get a lot of like different things, but you don't actually settle down and build something yourself. Like if you're building that clone from scratch after you learn, like if you did a couple of courses by John and with everything you learn, you're like, let me build my own projects. I think that's what I would recommend is that if you like, I'll tell you this, if you took courses on Udemy, like you're good. Start building stuff. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Just start building stuff because like they're saying like Netflix or YouTube or Facebook clone. I do none of that. I'm building my own application and on my stream I'm talking about it. And
Hmm.
my thought for my Tuesday night stream that I'm doing is instead of doing another like what some of these bigger YouTuber channels do where they do like let's do clone Twitter. There's 1,000 of those, you know.
Hmm.
It's different when you're just learning, but to build it for the sake of building, build your own thing. And so what I kind of asked on my live stream, like, what kind of stuff do I do at work? And let me just build something for the live stream that utilizes the stuff that I actually do at work. So it's like, because like I was thinking about what's the difference between me coding at work and me coding at home. I get paid at work, but the coding is the same. Like, like at least at where I'm now. And so the idea is like build personal projects that you're building with the intent, like if you were going to build it for a customer. I know it's hard, but the more production ready your application looks, and it's hard, like I don't want to undersell that, like if you build something that's very similar to what they're doing at the job that you're applying to, you're probably going to get hired. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
I know like I'm kind of like I don't want to be discouraged. Like let me just use this example. When you go and learn like first grade math, like you don't go to the second grade and then learn first grade math again, and then you go to the third grade and learn first grade. No, you move up. And so if you build a couple of clones, like you build the Twitter loan, whatever, think of what can you do that's a little bit more complex. It doesn't have to be much more complex, but like a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. So by the end, then like 5 projects into it, your first project that you built compared to your fifth project just looks like way more significant, that showcases your knowledge that you have. For instance, I've been developing for almost 3 years. If I build a simple website, that's not going to help me, because my experience level is past that. So I have to build something that showcases my current skill and where I'm going. Anyway, I'm very passionate about people, doing other people's projects after the fact that they should be building their own stuff with their portfolio. And I'm saying it outside of learning. Like if you're taking courses to learn, it's good. But after 5 courses, what are you doing? Start building. Start
Hmm.
building.
Hmm. No, no, no. That's definitely, and this is like what I want people to understand, that it's it's painful for everyone. Like it's not like, I don't know, you just wake up in the morning and then you start, whipping out the code, right? What happens is, yeah, there's a lot of things that, let's say, I'm already comfortable with, right? I already built this project and that project, but there's still a lot of this, like, okay, I don't know how to do that, so I need to go back and I need to figure out and I need to work on that. And it's the same for the job that you're going to be working on, and that's going to be that constant process. So when you're struggling to get something going, understand that you're actually in it. So that means that you're going somewhere. And usually, what happens when you go through that, pain, and then you actually get that thing working whatever you wanted, you'll be like, okay, you know what? I can actually put this one in the shelf where I'm like, I know this stuff. So it's the next thing, and it's the
Yes.
next thing, and kind of, and So, but there is something to say about that. It's tough, you know, as far as, okay, I finished this, and then now what do I? Usually, this is like, what should I build, right? And for me, it's, from one part, it's going to be very hard to be kind of original in the sense that, I mean, a e-commerce store is an e-commerce store, right?
Yeah.
In my perspective, it's kind of, do you understand actually, or it's just like, well, I took his code and I applied to my website, or
Right.
you
Right.
actually went through the, okay, I'm gonna repeat myself, but I fetched the data, I did this, and I did all the steps, and then and I think people see that, whether it's actually you just took it from somewhere, or you're like, no, this is like, I understand the idea, I got it, you know, and therefore kind of I'm more comfortable.
Yeah, Andrew Ladd like kind of had like a good quote. He said, well, actually, stuff's moving so fast, but he says, "My old music professor would always tell me, practice what you can't play." And I kind of like that. That's a great quote. And here's another one from Edwards Jones. He said, "I've put in the work and still freeze up building my own projects. What should I do? I'm stuck all the time. I forget everything." So let me tell you this. So like maybe I got a job by luck, right? So before I started on YouTube, I had like no subscribers, whatever. I started a Slack channel. There's like 10 people in it. I don't even know why they would listen to me in the first place. So there was this girl, and she was actually a paralegal. She actually has a law degree, but she
Mm,
just didn't want to do it. And I literally, told her, I'm like, look, like you should probably learn React. Check out like John's course, because I first of all, like at that time, I didn't have any confidence that I could even give advice on code to anybody. Take the course, whatever. And all I did is I put a challenge. I just put like build a portfolio website. Make sure you use HTML, CSS, and you add some basic JavaScript. And I took a bunch of screenshots of some random website I found online, and I used it as a mock-up. And so she went through your course, and she, obviously had the projects that she completed from your course. But then what she did is she took what she learned from you, and she then did this project that I outlined. I didn't tell them how to do it. I just said it has to have
mm,
it has to have a menu. It should be responsive. That's all I said. And she did it. And that practice of building something from scratch from a mock-up, and that was really hard. Don't get me wrong. She would freeze, she would fail, but over time, it becomes easier because you actually practice building stuff, like just like you practice learning, practice, whatever. And she succeeded. I was like very surprised because she finished before I did, because I was trying to build a project along the students so I could show to them.
mm,
And
mm,
she said that gave her the confidence to be able to talk about the code she was writing, and she was able to get a React job. And
mm,
you know,
mm,
like I told her, like I want her to come in the live stream to talk about her experience, because it's always good to hear people who literally, you know, were doing a different profession, followed like a like a systematic approach to learning. You got to
mm,
have a
mm,
plan,
mm,
and
mm,
then do the portfolio projects and get a job. It's awesome, but that's
mm,
what you got to do. That's what you got to do.
mm, mm. No, no, no. It's, but it is a very, like, it's not a easy, let's say, topic. Well, like like literally, like like my goal is to show you, I don't know, 20, 30 applications in order so you understand how the functionality is going to work. Because what you need to understand is that, let's say, if you have one functionality, it's going to work the same in different application. It's not like you just need to understand the core principles. And once you do that, then you can apply it. But as far as coming up, that is definitely a tough one. So for me, one of the things that, as far as the looks and likes, I use Theme Forest in order to get an ideas. If you go to
Yep,
Theme
that's good.
Forest, then
I
just,
do the same exact thing.
yeah, you go to Figma, let's say type Figma, and then you can get bunch of like ideas and whatever, like, again, just ideas what you can build, right? And then you continue. And also Dribble. Like Dribble maybe
Yep,
not so much,
it's for
but
like
the
UI design
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah. So to kind of understand what do you want to go for, but what you need to understand, that Paul is 100% right about one thing, where if you're just gonna be putting stuff that's like already on YouTube, you need to understand that you're competing with same people,
Everybody else,
well,
yeah.
almost who already got it. So if you understand the functionality, but if you go to, like I just said, Theme Forest or Dribble, and create your own, that will show you that not only you understand the functionality, but you can already build it. And that's a key kind of difference where, but again, like we talked about a little bit earlier, a lot of times when it comes to company, they will take a chance on you. So it
Yeah,
also
yeah.
comes down to like how excited you are about. And I mean, look at me. I'm not over the top person, but you should like project some excitement when like as far as coding. So yeah.
Here's a good question because a lot of people wonder how to apply when one doesn't have any relevant experience after having firm understanding of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And I'm assuming it's how to apply to a job. It was asked by Rob Zombie. Good
And then
name.
and then
Good
and
name.
then there's one. I have the same question as Ram Zombie. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
how do you apply for? Okay, I see the question. How do you apply when one doesn't have any firm understanding? No, I mean there's really no way around it. As far as what do you mean by firm? Then kind of if you will need to know the basics,
Yeah.
especially as far as JavaScript.
The thing is, and this is kind of why I keep coming back to this idea, you got to build stuff yourself. John, like the course, this is what I realized recently, by the way. Don't think I'm that smart, but I realized that courses teach you how to build things from scratch, at least give you the experience to do so. You still got to struggle on your own a lot, but the experience of building things yourself is what gives you the practice necessary to get the job. So if you are not able to do that, unfortunately, like it's going to be really hard to get a job, like because like John and I here, we don't want to mislead anybody by saying that like it's easy and anybody could do it. There's a certain level of skill that you have to have, and you have to
Mm-hmm.
be able to showcase it through your knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And
Mm-hmm.
if you don't, like me, I didn't have a college degree, I didn't have any previous experience. My portfolio and having an active GitHub is what's something that kind of helped me. And
Mm-hmm.
I know if you're serious about applying, like obviously you need the skill, but another thing, like you do need to set up a LinkedIn profile. You need to, at least start working on a resume, and then you need to make sure that you have a GitHub that shows that you're active. Like most people, they're not gonna go on your GitHub and be like, let me check every code there. They just want to see a bunch of green. That's all they want to see.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I applied to this job, and literally when I got there, the guy's like, oh, I saw your GitHub. Whoa, you're pretty active. I'm like, thanks, but like he didn't
yeah.
ask me about it, but people just want to see that you're in it. And so like you kind of have to, there's like a lot of stuff to do, but definitely knowing what like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So I'll give you a story. So I and I don't say this to be mean. And listen, I started learning to code like in my early 30s, but I didn't get a job until I was 39. So there was a lot of wasted time because I thought there was an easy, like, there was like a quick fix or like a magic pill that I could take, and I just wasted a lot of time. So I have somebody who, um, like the Slack channel. There's like few people there, and this girl Katya, who I told you about, who got a job as a developer, she doesn't even wait for me. She's like, "This is what I have to do. If I can't get this, I'm gonna I'm gonna figure out why." She's very persistent.
Mm,
Like if
mm,
people
mm,
you know reject her, she wants to know why so she could fix it. And then I have this other guy who like asked me that question like 2 years ago, and then just the other year he asked me the same question and he did nothing about it in the middle. And so like this idea of getting hired, it's kind of like hard topic to talk about because it really comes down to like what are you doing to make that move forward. um, and maybe it's because like I'm Russian. Like my mom always told me like nobody owes you anything, and you
mm,
have to
mm,
get it through hard work. And I don't know
mm,
if like
mm,
like I hope it's not sounding negative or offending anybody, but you
mm,
gotta take ownership and do it. Like I would have never got hired if I didn't like do the work, and also like had that mentality that I'm just gonna do it until I get hired or until like I don't know
mm,
what happens, like I die or
mm.
whatever. You know what I mean? It's just like sometimes it's like that.
Yeah, no. And this is again, this yeah, Paul is right. It's not. No one's saying that to be mean or condescending, but like it or not, at the end of the day, it comes down to just showing up. And I fully understand that. Like when you're juggling, your current job and
Your
family and
family.
everything.
Yeah.
Like all that is like I've been through that. I've been through the job that I hate and all that. But it, when you're that's it really comes down to. But like in here I'm reading, he's saying he's firm understanding, but at what point you should start applying. And this is a good one where you should start applying right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you're looking at those job boards and whatever, I mean, those expectations are unrealistic. I don't even know whether they can really get someone with like whatever they have 15 stacks there and whatever. So you should apply right away and then you'll see. When this is the thing, what happens when you're this is you need to get out of a little bit the comfort zone where you apply and then you'll see. I mean, what's the worst thing? Okay, they can reject you. Okay, so then you can move on to the next one, and then you'll understand what they're
And
looking for.
think of rejection as a practice interview, just like you practice working out, like just like you practice doing any other skill. Like you need to practice going to interviews, and it's better to start early, get a bunch of rejections. One thing I would say, if you do get rejected, by the way, people don't owe you this, but a lot of times when like they don't respond to me or like whatever, they say if you chose to pick somebody else, I always will write an email, say thank you for your time, I really appreciate it, but can you just let me know like why did you choose like the other candidate versus me? And they don't have to give you the answer, but some people could say, oh, your portfolio wasn't good enough, or we needed this and that. And at least you could try to figure out where you're weak and you could start working on that. um, Somebody, this is funny to me, you know how like you're saying like if I didn't talk to you, you would have never had a live stream. Well, I would never be on Twitter if John did not use Twitter to communicate. Somebody asked, "What's your Twitter, Paul?" Already followed John. I don't like Twitter. The only reason I have, so you could follow me on YouTube, Coding After 30. Just Google it on YouTube. But because I see you guys asking, I'll try to be better on uh, Twitter. I think it's Coding 30, and I'm sure I commented on some John's post, so you could find me that way.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Twitter,
I think it
like
is coding 30.
every time Twitter says, not Twitter, every time John sends me a message, check your Twitter messages. I'm like, okay, John, okay,
Yeah, because
okay,
the
okay,
thing is for me, it's because it's already open, and
yeah,
if you
yeah,
send
yeah.
me something on, I'm like,
Yeah.
because as a quick side note, so I read this, and I'm bad with names, but I read this book about like the habits, how important they are, and one of the things that I came away with
Yep.
with that is just to remove anything that's kind of messing you up like kind of get your attention necessarily. So I removed my email from the phone. So every time you
That's
send me
smart.
something, I'm like, and I don't have actually on the work computer. I don't have the email as well because I also did that because so that's why Twitter is the only. Yeah, so
I,
that's
I
why I'm
probably read
forcing.
the same book you did, and I removed Twitter
Yeah,
and Facebook. Uh, you
yeah,
know,
no. That's books is another thing that you can talk and talk. I like this one this kind of notion. Blah blah blah. So I guess it's not easy anymore. I've been trying for 4 years, but I see that a lot of even junior jobs require you to know like both JavaScript and another language and its frameworks to get a job. This is a very valid point where yes, that's why this 3 month thing I've had some examples. This is one of the things we talked in that tip series where I've had some messages from people who have actually been hired with just HTML and CSS and very, very soon. But you need to understand that it also depends a lot on where they live. So the places where they live, it was able to do it. But again, as far as when I talk to my friends here, for example, in LA, some of them got the job with just CSS. But yes, that is changing, and that is unfortunate. But the industry is pushing this kind of you need to know HTML, CSS, JavaScript, already React, and it is growing. That is true as far as I can see.
yeah, I'm looking through the comments, and so many people like, "Thanks, John. I've had this internship all because of you. Or I got this job. Like, it's awesome because of your courses." It's amazing how many people like did your stuff, and they're just like, "Wow, this like got this, I got that." By the way, guys, smash the like button for yourselves. Like, give yourselves a hand.
Yeah, no,
You
no, no.
know,
Thank you everyone for
because you
showing
guys are
up.
awesome. Yeah, this is
I
amazing. This is great.
and
You know,
again, let me just say, I'm sorry we're not answering every question. There's like when I was talking to Paul, we were like, okay, at least we have the Twitter questions, so we
yeah.
have
If
something
nobody
for.
shows up,
Yeah, but like, thank you for asking, and for sure, the plan is, I mean, this is the first one, so probably by the fifth one, you're already gonna be sick of it. Don't worry. You'll be like, there's gonna be one dude
Yeah, yeah,
showing up
yeah,
here, but we will be still here. At least
yeah. You'll be here
Paul
every
was
Monday.
kind enough to agree with me to go on this wonderful
Oh, this is
journey.
amazing. I
Yeah. So we will be still here. So if the question we don't answer, I again trust me, it will die down.
next time. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
usually it usually
yeah,
happens that way. And the same goes
yeah.
for everyone on Twitter. We will get to it. It's I mean we can give our 2 cents and then you can make a decision.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Somebody said almost. Andrew said almost 300. Yeah, we definitely
yep,
need to hit the
we're
300
getting
likes. If you guys
yes.
want to be troopers and you haven't liked, just to get to
Yes.
300, because
We
300 looks
need
nicer than 296. You know.
we need those likes. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, but to be honest, like I told John, I'm like, look, like because we had a conversation before we decided to like do this. I was like, I could just talk to you all day, you know. So for me, it's fine. For me, it's
No,
fine. So
that's like one super thing that I kind of advise to anybody who's starting out, to in general to try to find the community in a sense. Whether
yeah,
you're, I know it's COVID right now and it's messed up for a lot of reasons, but if you're going for it, try to get some kind of sense of community. Whether that, and then again, I'm always pushing for someone local because they'll be able to help you way more than the YouTube heads, you know. So try to look for that, but you'll find that because true story, in my previous jobs I never really connected with anybody because I never felt that like I was interested in any of that what was happening. And when I start as far as developing, it's very, it's much more easier to have conversations with people because we have common interests, right, about building something, making something, and you get this sense of community. And trust me, like this is this one like dirty secret that people don't say, but a lot of times it's about who you know
yeah,
about getting that position. And your skills might be on the same level as somebody else, but if you know like already somebody in a company, or if you know already, I don't know, a guy who you were studying with and then he got a job and maybe something along those lines, it's gonna go way further than watching somebody give you on YouTube some kind of advice. Just make those local connections, they will be
yeah.
priceless. And I've some, oh, now we reached 300. And I have some like amazing
Nice. Yes.
I met some amazing developers here just because like I like to talk about code, and that's usually like. Do you have a Discord? I don't. I'm sorry. I'm always in the process of setting one up, but Paul, do you still have your
I do have my Discord, but I'm not sure to have people like come on YouTube, like when I do live streams and just chat with me live. And a lot of times, like, I have Discord, but like the truth is like it's hard to do everything. So I'm trying to focus, like, make sure that I talk to people on YouTube, and then if someone really really needs my help, like I'll give him my email. And I actually did a bunch of Zoom calls with a bunch of my subscribers and stuff. But here's one question, because since we were talking about it, not to kind of bring it back to topics of this idea of who you know, what do you guys think about by Elkan? Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Guys, what do you think about recruiters? How helpful are they? Thank you. Always a pleasure to see you both. God bless.
ooh. This is a goodie. This is a um as far as those cold emails that you get from the job sites, I've never found them useful.
Yeah.
This is like the only kind of, it it's only useful if you're getting recruited by the recruiter who's actually in that company. Then
Right.
you
Yeah.
then you know that they're serious. Because recruiting is one of those things, like like just as just random salesmen, where bunch of people are doing that, and pretty much they're the common approach. There's very good recruiters, some of them are,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I was gonna say that.
like 90% of them is just sending as many emails as possible and then hoping that that one person whatever. So I've never personally found them useful. In fact, I usually just unsubscribe from them. But if the person recruits you from the company, you
Yeah.
know that they're serious about it, then you can like, because for me it's the biggest thing is always you don't want to waste your time on stuff. You know,
Yep.
you have only certain amount of hours a day, and wasting them on something, chasing something that doesn't exist is kind of stupid.
Y-
What do
Yeah,
you
that's a
think?
good point. And I'll tell you this: like, I tried when I first started out sending out my resume randomly to people, and most of them got rejected. You know, and so like somebody told me you should work with recruiters. And what I would say is that, like John said, there's like a small percentage of recruiters are awesome and they really want to hold your best interest. But then there's some that are not. What I would say, if you're not working with any recruiters and you're not getting jobs, like what can you like, you got to figure it out. Like how much are you willing of time to put in? But sometimes I've seen it help people. And like I'm coming from the standpoint that I have couple of friends who are recruiters and they're really awesome people, and they always like, give me your resume, Paul, like blah blah blah,
Mm,
help you out. But they're all like work for specific companies, like you're saying.
mm,
One thing I would say, make friends in the community. Like I have a friend who works in IBM, and I'll tell you this story just to kind of showcase that it's a thing. Like John said, it really is important who you know. And um, an example here is I sent my resume to IBM. They literally declined me like straight up. Like they didn't even waste a breath like on me. They're just like declined. And my friend saw my resume and
mm,
he literally said, "Paul, you're an idiot. Why didn't you give me your resume? I would have took your resume. I would have gave it to our hiring manager, and you would have at least got an interview." And I was
mm,
like, I didn't
mm,
think of like and I told him, I was like, I didn't want to feel bad asking you for favors. He's like, no, no, everybody does it. Like so, like
mm,
that's why I tell people on LinkedIn, connect, connect, connect. That's why I talk about LinkedIn all the time in my live streams, because you want to get out there in the community, because you'll never know where your opportunity comes. And this is kind of a cheesy example, but this live stream is happening because somewhere somehow me and John got introduced and we built a relationship, and
mm,
this relationship led to this live stream. And it's very similar with jobs, where exactly like this happened. You'll meet
mm.
somebody, you'll start talking to them, they work at this company, they're like, oh, we're looking for this. Actually, my last job, that's how I got it, through my friend recommending me to this company. So definitely important, definitely important.
Yeah, no, no, no. I just want to chime in on this one where uh, I 100% agree. Where, like, when we talk about projects that you build, a lot of times it doesn't come down to that. It does come down to who you know, right? And that's why I'm not a fan of building like phony relationships for, favors. That's
Oh, yeah,
um,
yeah, 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 yeah.
people
You
will
see
will
through
will
that.
see you through right away,
They'll see
right?
through that.
So what you want to do is you want to like, and I know it sounds like, oh, just go out there and trust me, it's the same thing. It's not like if I go to the meetup, I'm also not like, the saying hi to everyone and saying like telling my life story. It's tough. You go in the room and you're like, oh boy, what's happening here? But you'll start getting like-minded people, and once you start communicating with them, you are actually going into some direction, and then you start helping each other out, and then you're slowly like getting where you want to go, instead of just kind of sitting on your own and wondering, and then you pretty much being just kind of waved around like this by someone. Oh, okay, this guy said I should learn this. Oh no, I should learn this, or
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, no.
So so that therefore, and then you'll get the project ideas. You'll
Yep.
understand, maybe somebody already works in a company, they can help you out, they can be like, hey, this is what we build. And this is why I always, and now this is going to be again one of those where I like repeat the same thing 70,000 times, but you need to rely on the connections and local connections. This is what kind of drives the whole thing, in my opinion, to kind of to where you want to go.
Yeah, this like ability to like, I mean, it doesn't sound fair, but everybody does it. Like, and what I would say is like, yeah, you're learning to code, but try to go out of the way to also, like John saying, connect with people and think about your, kind of like your, almost like self-promoting yourself. I don't know, like that's a good choice of words, but you should be comfortable talking about yourself to other people and talking about like what you do, because that's,
Mm, mm.
you definitely got to do that. I
No,
was
but
looking at
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
No, but
Go
it's
ahead.
also the code is like a very nice icebreaker. You
Oh,
don't
yeah,
like
hundred percent,
it's
hundred
you can
percent.
be like, hey, just again, it's gonna be like, if you're phony about it, if you actually hate coding, then no.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
if
Right.
you
Yeah.
enjoy it, then yeah. Uh, can you hold your thought, because there's one question that I
No
definitely
worries.
want
No
to
worries.
answer.
Yeah, yeah, hundred
So
percent.
talk about the importance of CSS. So basically, a person was asking. This is something that I think it's a goodie. So I mean, I cannot find the question, but it went along the lines like, how much CSS should you know, and what about companies? Do they all use CSS frameworks? And Paul is gonna tell his side of like what he has. In my experience, it's kind of funny to tell honestly. I think that CSS is very tough, and what I'm talking about is in order to get something really good, you know, it's tough. Now, there's two things. First of all, when you work in a company, in most cases, you'll be getting a mock-up. So for me, the toughest one is actually to, hey, what colors you should use and blah blah blah. I'm not a designer, right? That's why I'm saying go to Theme Forest, take a look at the examples, and try to, when you make the CSS, your goal is to repeat that,
Yep.
because it's much more harder. Whatever those guys did is to come up with that. It's much more tougher, in my opinion, at least, right? So if you can build those kind of mock-ups, if you're comfortable with, I don't know, setting up the background colors, the whatever. I'm not even talking about, you don't need to be fancy there, but just the general
Yeah, the
concept,
general
right?
layout. Yeah.
In my opinion, you're good because you can build the applications. Now, the funny thing is, at least again, in my experience, yes, companies use all kinds of, like, one uses Material UI, the other one uses that. That's something that once you go to the company, yes, you. But again, I don't think that it will ever be like, oh, you don't know Material UI, well then don't come here. That's
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
will kind of put you like in the right place. And then last point is, I've talked to some people who actually work for a company already for 3 4 years, and they honestly say, they're like, listen, when I have to start a brand new project, I'm actually struggling because
Yeah.
I've been working in this nice environment, not, I mean, in general environment where everything is already, I have, okay, I use this CSS, I do
Yeah.
this and
That's
that.
applied. Yeah.
And then when you have to start from scratch, so they struggle the same as
Yeah.
everyone else. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
no, it's 100% true with that. And what I was going to say, especially for junior devs, a lot of times you're coming into projects that are already built, the CSS is already there, and literally when you're working on features, you'll be working on stuff that is using a lot of the code base that's already present. So it's not like right away you're going to be building from scratch, but to come to the point though, like John says, you're not a designer, go to theme forest. And what I do actually, which is funny, you said it, I go to theme forest too. And how do I decide what's a good design? I just find the ones that get the most sales. I'm like, oh, this one made the
Yeah,
most money,
yeah,
so this
yeah.
got to be a good
Mm,
design.
mm,
And
mm,
so I
mm,
just
mm, mm,
practice recreating that design with CSS or whatever tech I'm using,
mm,
and
mm,
just the mockup. And like I think for front end developers, this is very important, is that you should at least have the skill to look at the design. You don't have to create it yourself, but you should be able
mm,
to convert it to HTML and CSS, because the job that I have now, that's exactly what happened. This dude came up, he gave me Photoshop files. He didn't even use Figma. He gave me Photoshop files, and he's like, this is what I want you to build. I'm like,
mm,
okay. And I'm
mm,
like, I'm
mm.
glad that I took John Spilberg courses. And I'm like, let me do my HTML and CSS, do my
Yeah.
React components, functional components, and
Mm.
got it out. But you do need to know do that. That's kind of
Where
like
did
what I.
where did sorry, where did you learn Photoshop? Like
I don't know Photoshop. I just said they gave me Photoshop mockup. I don't know
uh,
Photoshop. I don't know how to use that. Like
no, because I was like, for me, when the Figma came out, it was like I was so like, because I actually
Figma's awesome. Yeah,
I installed the Photoshop and I was like, let's put it this way, struggling
I
mightily.
can't even open Photoshop to let you
Well,
know.
first of all, it takes like ages to begin with. Let's start with that. Photoshop. Like, I understand you have a bunch of features, but you should definitely open quicker. But no, Figma was like like this was another like this watershed moment where you open up Figma and it's so intuitive. I even like, if I'm being perfectly, I don't think I even ever took any kind of tutorial. Now, with that said, I'm not some kind of Figma magician. So what I'm talking about, just getting the data, right? So I'm not really inclined into. If you take a look at my thumbnails, you can see I'm not really designer type and all that. So yeah. What else? What else? What else? Okay. You know what, Paul? We're actually like,
yeah, yeah. It's like
you're
midnight
a
here.
true hero. Is it
It's a
what,
midnight.
12? It's
12,
12.
12,
Oh,
12,
okay.
12,
Okay.
12.
Yes, people. So we could chat all night, but like
Yeah,
Paul needs to
it's good.
sleep as well.
Yeah, guys. Yeah, but man, this was amazing. Thank you, John, for having me. It's you have
No,
no
no,
idea. It's like
no.
I'm
Thank
like a
you
little
for
kid
coming.
in like a candy store. This is like my
No, this
dreams
is
come
this is
true.
definitely something.
Talk to
Again,
awesome people.
if you're gonna be okay with
Yes,
doing
yes,
this,
yes,
this
100%.
definitely is
Every
something
Monday,
that
every Monday.
and again, if we didn't get to your question, uh then I'm sorry. We will do that. Definitely, again, just come back next week. You'll see
Yeah,
that
yeah,
it
yeah.
will die down and everything.
So
And the same.
Monday, 8 p.m. Pacific time, every
Yes,
Monday.
yes,
Yes,
yes. And
perfect.
if you want to check out some great content, go to Paul's channel, Coding After 30. Some
Yep.
really, really cool stuff. So we talked about, for example, custom projects. Here you go. You have already some knowledge. You go there and you work on the custom stuff. And in general, you'll like he's way more actually now he puts way more YouTube content than me. So
I don't know if
he's
it's good, but we're working on it. We're working.
no,
If you guys want
it's
crazy streams though, because like because we have some good times. But yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, I just want to say thank you, John, and I want to say thank you to all of you guys who came in tonight. It was like amazing. It was like you guys made this first official live stream phenomenal. And I did see a question asking if we are on LinkedIn. I think everybody should be on LinkedIn.
yeah.
Come on, guys. Like everybody should be on. It's like uh,
Yeah,
if
yeah, no, no.
it's available for in your country. Like, is LinkedIn worldwide? Wide? I don't even know that.
I think it is. I think
Yeah,
you should just ignore the sales pitch that they have for $30. I don't think it's that necessary to see who view your profile,
yeah,
but it's a good idea to have it because they do ask for it.
yeah. It's important.
So
So I guess that's it. Good
yeah,
night, everybody.
thank you very much for everyone to coming and thank you for asking questions. To otherwise I mean we would still talk. Don't
Oh,
worry
believe
about
us.
that.
Yeah, we could talk
But
for
anyway,
sure.
at least like thank you for bringing up very good points and questions and everything. And again, if nothing major happens, this should be a weekly thing. And trust me, by the end of it, you by I don't know, by January you'll be sick of it. So anyway, thank you, Paul, for coming.
Thank you.
What do I do?
Definitely.
Like, how do I now finish?
Like
Yeah,
what I'll
click
do,
here.
like click the finish button and
Okay,
stream, and
okay.